So I'll wait until we get it. Can you let me know, or someone let me know when it's resolved? So we've got.
Yeah, but it looks like we're good to go, I think.
Okay.
Look at the screen. Most of the individuals that have their cameras off will only come on
Okay.
should be required.
Just as long as they can when they're.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
All right. So the Richmond Board of Education acknowledges and thanks the First Peoples of the Hunkaminam language group on whose traditional and unceded territories we teach, learn, and live. And welcome everybody to the first Council Board Liaison of the school year. And as we speak, students are back in their classrooms, sitting at their desks. I'd like to adopt the agenda. Is there anything to add to the agenda? I'm not seeing anything at the moment. So can I have mover and seconder to adopt the agenda? Heather, and I can't see anybody else. Alexa, can you raise your hand? Good. We have a mover and a seconder. So
sorry, I spoke but didn't turn on my screen.
Heather Larson and Alexa Liu. Thank you. And approval of the minutes of our meeting.
So moved.
So once again, Heather and Heather Larson, Alexa Liu, Councillor Liu. Okay. We have standing items, but before I move into that, I just wanted to introduce our brand new superintendent, Chris Yusey, who comes to us from Calgary, and he's immersed himself already. So I'd just like to say a welcome, and maybe we'll get him to speak in a little bit, unless Chris, you want to say anything now, Mr. Yusey? You're muted though. I don't know. Is that the panelist thing, or is it something else? Maybe we'll get him to speak in a little bit. Okay. All right. So moving on to standing items, we have the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, and that is Sonali Hingarani. Did I say that correct? I hope. Sonali?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
That's right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. I can hear you.
Okay, got the nod. No, thank you. Perfect. Yeah, my name is Sonali Hingarani from the city's transportation department, for anyone that isn't familiar with me yet. And I'm happy to provide some transportation updates related to traffic safety improvements that have been implemented around school zones since our last meeting a couple of months ago. So a number of schools have had upgrades on fronting streets to discourage speeding and improve the environment for students as they travel to and from school. And I'll just go over a list. Sorry, I see a hand up.
The speaker,
Trustee Wong, are you putting your hand?
Yeah, I just want to use this is a closed meeting agenda, or you now is just a public meeting?
This is public.
Public. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I can hear.
Right. Go ahead. You can go ahead with the traffic.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I'll just provide a snapshot of some of the schools and the type of safety-related features that have been implemented. The first one is at Thompson Elementary, a speed reader board that advises motorists of their speeds, and also the installation of a raised crosswalk to slow traffic down has been installed adjacent to the school. A raised crosswalk has also been implemented at 2 other schools that are Walter Lee and Jesse Woke schools. Near Dixon School, as part of a comprehensive speed management program, Barmond Avenue has been upgraded with 6 speed humps added to slow traffic down around Dixon neighborhood. And also on Ryan Road and Leonard Road, this is near Bridge Elementary School. At one of the crosswalks there, traffic calming measures with curb extensions have been added, which help to slow traffic down and also reduce the walking distance for pedestrians across the travel lanes. Along Kittiwake Drive, this is one that I've mentioned before, but a recent update to what's going on that street is that the previous rubber speed cushions that were installed on a trial basis were effective at discouraging speeding along that road. And in August, asphalt versions of those devices, so speed cushions but made out of asphalt, have been implemented, and staff are continuing to monitor speed along that roadway over the next 6 months, and will report back on those findings. And in response to neighborhood concerns in the Dover Crescent neighborhood regarding speeding at crosswalks within that loop road, you will notice the addition of in-street delineator signs to further reduce speeds so that traffic has to negotiate around those devices before they approach the crosswalks to improve pedestrian safety. So that's an overview of the safety features that have been added over the course of the last few months since we last met to enhance safety along the transportation network, and in particular around school zones to improve safety for students. And that's the update for the first agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Wong, had a
So
question?
regarding the meeting on the January, so you have a report some is about the Burnett Secondary School. So I still receive Burnett Secondary School's picture about the traffic on the school zone. So any improvement for that?
Certainly. What we've done in that area is reviewed the situation, and we've been in touch with the school principal. Traffic enforcement is also being conducted, and we'll continue to monitor the situation. So.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Trustee Wong, if you could put your hand down so I know that there may be a new one. So I don't have my hand up, but I'm just declaring it now. I have a question regarding Burnett School. The pickup and drop off, we've had several communications from the parent group, and also I believe the principal has been trying to resolve things. And I received a video from one of the parents there where it shows clearly that students were almost hit at that intersection. They were on bikes. So I'm wondering, I know they were trying to get a flashing light or something. Have you been looking at that more extensively? Because it seems to be a serious situation there.
Yes, staff have gone out and done studies and observed the conditions at that location. It is the parents that are dropping off and picking up in a location that they're not permitted to do so, and so they're subject to enforcement. So we've worked with our community bylaws and Richmond RCMP to step it up over there and address that issue, as there are those facilities available on the school premises that should be used and are more appropriate. There is already the flasher crosswalk there for pedestrians to cross Granville at that location. And so based on our discussions with the school principal will continue to monitor and observe the area to see if anything further is required.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's, anything else that could be done or is suggested to be done on your side, because it seems to be ongoing, and there doesn't seem to be any changes. So do you know, is RCMP, are they stepping up enforcement there at all?
I don't have the details of that. I can certainly talk to our colleagues in bylaws and Richmond RCMP to find out more details about their enforcement efforts in the area.
Yeah, I guess if there's some enforcement, it might change habits for a little while anyway, if somebody gets a ticket. But it is dangerous. It seems pretty chaotic there. I know it's kind of a really different intersection, and it's hard to fix, but we don't want any tragedies. So just hoping something can change there, but parents need to not put the students at risk as well. So thank you very
And
much.
perhaps, if I may suggest, as part of the commencement of the new school year, there may be new families to the school and new students arriving in a newsletter or some sort of information sharing regarding the on-site availability and the proper areas for drop-off and pickup. That will certainly help encourage parents to use the designated areas for those operations on the school site and not in the roadway.
Okay, I would imagine they've probably already done that, but I can certainly check and see. I'm the liaison to that school, so and I need to touch base with them, so I can definitely find out, or our superintendent or our assistant superintendent, and I do believe they've been looking into it. So
okay, good to know. Yeah, it all helps. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any more questions on the traffic? Child care update. Chris Dugan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Chris Duggan, and I'm currently the Acting Manager of Community Social Development here at the City, and here to provide a brief update on our childcare progress within the City. We, since the last meeting, have completed and distributed our 2022 update to the most recent childcare needs assessment and strategy, and that's also posted on the City website. It captures a snapshot of all of the activities that the City undertook in the past year with regards to childcare, and also includes some brief updates about some of the amazing initiatives that the school district also undertook. We're also in the process of developing a new 10-year childcare strategy. Our most recent strategy came to a close at the end of 2022, and we are just in the process of preparing to begin public engagement over the course of the fall, which will include a public survey on our Let's Talk Richmond platform, some focus groups, and some community events to gather information from parents, Richmond residents, and employers with regards to the childcare needs of the community. And we've been very pleased to have Catherine Jewell from the school district sitting on the advisory committee for that project as well. So that's it for me. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Sorry, it took me a minute to find my mute button. Are there any questions, Trustee Beliza? You're muted, Trustee Beliza.
Okay, I'm mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just would like to know if the city, we're meeting the needs in terms of the space availability and affordability insofar as childcare is concerned.
Through the chair to Trustee Beliza, we are currently managing to meet the need for about 35.6% of the children aged 0 to 12 in our community. And we know from anecdotal feedback from families that that is not yet sufficient to meet the community need. And really appreciate the efforts of the school district in supporting the development of future childcare spaces. With regards to affordability, affordability is primarily the responsibility of the provincial government. And although great strides have been made over the course of the past 5 years with regards to childcare affordability, with the $10 a day program expansion and greater fee reductions provided directly to operators to support families, we're making good progress. But again, what we hear from families is that childcare is still not affordable for many.
If I could have a follow-up question, Madam Chair, how would the city and the district work together to make sure that we can provide more service to our, for the availability of the childcare in the city and in the district?
Through the chair to Trustee Beliza, the city and the school district have been working quite closely together with regards to some school district projects that the facilities team have been putting together with regards to how to ensure that those projects are moving quickly through our development applications and building permit processes, as well as making sure that the school district facilities team are kept well versed on any of the provincial government initiatives that are coming with regards to capital funding. And so really do feel like we have been working quite closely together over the past number of years, and hope that additional actions will be identified as we create the new childcare strategy.
Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to say, I think our staffs have been working together very well. And, the school district, I think we were just a week or two ago, just at a new daycare facility at one of our schools. And so the sites have been going up quite rapidly and adding space. So, I think we're certainly working together to meet the needs for parents in Richmond. So thank you. The Joint City and District Program Committee, and that's an update from us, from the school district, and I'm not sure who's speaking to this one. Is it
Debbie, I will comment.
our assistant superintendent or our deputy superintendent, Rick Ryan?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Through the chair. Thank you, Debbie. So this is a committee that, as many of you will know, that when I was in the acting role, that I stepped away from the district chairing portion of this, and Chris Stanger, who has now moved into the assistant superintendent role in human resources. So I've now taken it back. And so I wasn't at the meeting, but I've certainly reviewed the minutes, and we aren't meeting this year. Our next meeting, I believe, is October 11th. And it's our responsibility to work closely with our colleagues at the city to establish that agenda. So you have the minutes in your package. I just wanted to update you on sort of what the situation has been with regards to who's chairing the meeting. And as I mentioned, that will be back on my responsibility from the district side. So I'll just pause there. And if there's any questions, I would defer to Assistant Superintendent McMillan, who actually attended the meeting. But I'll pause there. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
Through the chair, if I may, hi everyone. For those that I haven't met, I'm Keith Miller. I'm the Director of Recreation and Sports Services, and I have attended the last couple of joint city and district program committee meetings, and Certainly happy to answer any questions as well. I wanted to highlight and note that it's really great to see the program committee back to meeting on a regular basis, and allowing us to share and collaborate on the various programs and initiatives that are benefiting students and youth and their families and the community. And a couple of great examples that you will see in the minutes there are the neighborhood celebration grants that are available to school groups, the promotion of the grade 5 active pass and the summer active pass that will help kids get active all throughout the year. And of course, our opportunity to work with the schools and use the schools during the summer months, where thousands of children across the city participate in summer camps. So lots of great work being done together between the city and the school district. And again, certainly happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Any questions? I have one myself, and I'm sorry, I probably should have done introductions in the beginning, but your names are all also on the under your face. So, but I had a question on the music groups, the Delta Youth Orchestra and the Richmond Community Band. I think you're looking for space to help those two groups out because of the closure of the church. So where they were practicing, have we had any updates on that at all? I think our assistant superintendent at the time, Chris Stanger, was looking to see if the district could help out in any way. I'm just wondering, have we heard anything?
So,
Debbie, I noticed that Chris is on the call, so if he has any information, he might be able to provide a response to the question. You're muted, Chris.
Trying to find us. We're all back to it again, so it takes us a while to find our mute buttons.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, when we were aware that some of the community groups, community venues were not able to support the music groups for the city, we were working with our facilities rental department to try to find whether or not we had space. So we had the opportunity to connect with our city partners, with our facilities folks, to look at various spaces that could be available and could accommodate. And that was really as we were segueing into summer. And so I don't have an update now in terms of that transpired, but of course we remain really committed to support them to find space that might be useful to them.
Yeah, that would be good, because I know, well, we have several music rooms in Richmond in our secondary school, so you would think that we could find a place for them, because those are important groups to the communities.
if I may jump in, Elizabeth Ayers, General Manager of Community Services. So I'm a little bit perhaps more familiar with our arts team. My understanding is that one of the groups was going to be, or was looking carefully at the school, and these were groups, if I may, that were renting church space, and the church was being sold, so that's why they were displaced. They weren't actually using community centers per se.
Right.
And so I think that they have secured, I'm almost sure that they've secured, and we can double check and certainly report back, space in the interim, but they are looking for a longer term home. And their primary problem or challenge, as I understand it, is around storage. And so while they might be able to use a school, it's that access to storage so that they don't have to move equipment back and forth on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So I don't know if that's something that could be looked at as a potential additional ask from them, that might make an evening opportunity more usable for them in the long term, and make for shared use of these community assets. So but regardless, we can double check and report back.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Chris and Elizabeth, for answering those questions. Before we go into future agenda items, I was going to again introduce Mr. Chris Busey, our new superintendent, and I'm wondering if you, I mean, we're very excited to be working with him. His district is very upset with us that we have purloined him away. So do you have anything to say, Mr. Yusey?
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Could you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Oh,
you.
that's excellent. Well, good morning, everyone. So thank you again very much, Madam Chair, and I very much look forward to learning more about this very important partnerships. So I've been very I've had time to debrief with my team, many of them represented here on this call, and certainly coming up to speed. Very good work, and I see the value of this very powerful relationship between the school district and the city. I've had similar involvements both in Toronto and in Calgary, the two previous jurisdictions where I've worked, and I know that those partnerships do make a huge difference, not only for young people but for families. So thank you very much. I look forward to being part of this this group and learning more and more questions than answers at this time. But bear with me. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And we're really excited that you're here with us now because it was waiting for you. Anyway, thank you. And so future agenda items. Does anybody have anything for future agenda items? No. Okay, we will be once again holding agenda planning, and I think Councillor Liu, you were, you just moved. I see you've got.
Sorry.
Thank you. I was just going to ask you if you were still interested in sitting in or participating in agenda planning for that.
Yes, I'll be bringing up the Sport Council priorities later in the meeting, but potentially this could be something that comes back on a future agenda item that we might want to discuss. So I'm going to give you the background later in the Sport Council priorities, but I'd love to put that back on for a later one after everyone has time to digest it, consider it, and consider if it's something more that we want to work together on.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, and business arising, we have a transportation update once again from Sonali Hingorani. Am I saying that correctly? I like to say these things correctly. If she's still there.
Hi again. Yes, I'm here, Madam Chair. I was just unmuting myself.
Correctly? Your
yeah.
name? Okay.
Yes, it's Sonali, and the last name is pronounced Hingorani, so you are saying it correctly. Thank you for that. I just wanted to say that I did combine my updates as part of the first agenda item, so nothing further to add.
Okay, great, thank you. And the Richmond Youth Strategy, Chris Dugan. And we all did receive the book, and I had mine beside my bed for bedtime reading, but I haven't had a chance to read through it completely yet. So I'm looking forward to your.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a short presentation, so I'll just share my screen and we can go through that quickly, and then I'll entertain any questions at the end if that works for people. Hmm. 2 seconds. I have many monitors and I'm just having a little advancement issue. There we go. So Richmond has a long history of responding to the needs of youth and developed our first youth strategy back in 1995. And so this slide captures a brief history of the work that has been done by the city with regards to youth development and supporting youth needs. In July of this year, Richmond City Council endorsed our new 10-year youth strategy, which supports the vision that all youth in Richmond are safe, valued, respected, and have the supports, opportunities, and resources to live rich and fulfilling lives. This slide captures a number of the ways in which the City of Richmond, as a municipal government, supports youth in our community and the vast array of community partners that we work with in doing this work together. Collaboration across organizations ensures that youth in our community can be supported as best as possible and draws on unique organizational strengths and opportunities. To create this youth strategy, we needed a strong understanding of the strengths, needs, and concerns of youth in our community. We assembled a strategy advisory committee of partners that play an important role in supporting Richmond's youth, as well as 2 youth members themselves. We were very pleased to have Rav Johal as the school district's representative on this committee, and he contributed a great deal of very valuable information to the process. We used the information that we gathered to develop a youth profile, outlining the current strengths, demographics, and priorities of youth that are living in Richmond, as well as a literature review of best practices, and specifically engaging youth and community members to find out what was the most important for them. Some of the information that was contained in the youth profile in the main document is captured on this slide here. As you can see, Richmond has a very diverse population of 29,000 youth. These are 2016 census information, and we will be doing an update with our first biannual update to this strategy to reflect the 2021 census data. We also took a look at youth participation in activities, and we can see that more than 60% of youth are participating in clubs or organized groups daily or a few times a week, and more than 50% of our youth are also volunteering daily or a few times a week in the community. The needs assessment process highlighted that Richmond youth have many, many strengths and many positive things going on for them. And you can see a few examples of this on the slide. While many strengths were highlighted through the needs assessment process, some risks to positive development also appeared, such as youth experiencing discrimination, using alcohol, and facing difficulty navigating the transition to adulthood. Specifically, youth expressed that aging out of existing services was an issue, causing them to face difficulties accessing resources. They wanted more support for job readiness, opportunities for meaningful volunteer experience, and options for employment above minimum wage. It was also clear that the COVID-19 pandemic had drastic impacts on youth's lives, including their physical and mental well-being, relationships, employment, and sense of safety. This slide captures just a few of the survey's findings with regards to youth mental health. These survey findings, along with the information from the focus groups, was used to identify 5 strategic priorities on which the strategy is based: foundation, voice, collaboration, opportunity, and awareness. Strategic priority 1, foundation, is based on the premise that youth need to have a foundation of wellness that begins with their basic needs being met. So this could be areas relating to income, food security, housing, health, employment, or childcare. Strategic priority 2 aims to better engage with youth voice. It recognizes that youth are experts in their own needs, experiences, and challenges, and have important insight on how we will solve these issues. The youth strategy identifies a second priority specifically related to ensuring youth are heard, valued, and engaged as members of the community. Strategic priority 3 builds on the important work that our partners and the collaborative network of youth serving agencies in Richmond do, and acknowledging that enhanced and positive collaboration amongst these organizations also positively supports youth development. Strategic priority 4, opportunity, is a priority aimed at addressing equitable access to a wide range of programs, services, and initiatives that can address youth's needs and support them to learn and successfully navigate the various stages of transition from early adolescence into young adulthood. This strategy is an extension of our previous work and does cover the age range up to age 24, so does have a renewed focus on young adults as well. And finally, strategic priority 5, awareness, ensuring that youth and their families have access to information and resources and are aware of the services and supports that are available for youth in Richmond. So again, a number of actions under this priority to ensure that the materials and resources that are available are well distributed amongst the community and that youth and their families have a good understanding of where to access these things. And finally, next steps. So we are currently just completed the distribution and information sharing portion of our next steps. As Madam Chair mentioned, everyone on the school board and Richmond City Council should now have received a full copy of the report. It's also been shared with our local members of parliament and MLAs. And we're now doing some introductory sessions for other community organizations as well. Then we will begin to develop an implementation plan. Obviously, take that implementation plan and put it into action while we work on the identified priorities within the strategy. We've also committed to updates to the youth profile using the updated census data, as well as new information that will emerge from the adolescent health survey that will take place this year, as well as the middle years development instrument and youth development instrument. And then finally, ending off with regular updates to Richmond City Council and our community. Every 2 years, we will be providing a formal update on the progress that has been made towards achieving all of the actions outlined in the strategy. And I'm happy to answer any questions that people have.
Super interesting. And I do see that we have a couple of questions. So I will call on Councillor Liu first.
Thank you, Chair. This isn't a question to our staff. It's more a question to directed at the school board. I recently read an article from Stanford relating to school attendance and how it affects the mental health and educational outcomes for kids. And so if kids aren't attending school, there is an effect. And so I'm wondering if, as part of this youth strategy, if we could have access to your disaggregated attendance data to cross-reference with how kids are feeling and how kids are doing. Because I know with the whole COVID thing, there's been a change in, the kids coming to school, how often they're coming, that sort of thing, the attendance levels. Maybe they've changed in Richmond, maybe they haven't, but I think it would be a good cross-reference if we could have that information to layer with that so that we have an even broader picture of what's happening with our kids.
I cannot answer that question. It looks like Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Ryan will.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, it's a really great question. Our Director of Instruction on Student Support and Data Analytics sits as part of the Youth Strategy Committee. And so I'm going to ask Rav to comment about that. And I think that your question would require additional conversation to determine what's the scope of the ask and how could we reasonably look at the sharing of information and if that's possible. But I think that's probably the appropriate place for that conversation to take place with Rav and the people that are engaged in this work. So Rav, I see you're there. And if you wanted to comment, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. It's a great question. I think with a lot of the committees that we have that are involving city staff and the school district, a lot of times there is that sharing of some information that we would have typically publicly available. So I do agree that it would have to be something that we have for the discussions around what that would look like if there's more specific data that's required. But I know that through the development of the youth strategy, and working with Chris, there was plenty of opportunities to provide some feedback and provide data that we're looking at. And there is a lot of school district data that is publicly available, around student learning survey results. And, that a lot of times does speak to themes of belonging and connection. So happy to continue to have discussions as needed with city staff.
Thank you.
Trustee Belisa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is about the out-of-school youth. Do we have any information or data regarding out-of-school youth? And if we do have many of them, are we meeting their needs? And are there available services or facilities that can help them, or that they can make use for their need, to meet their needs? Thank you.
Through the chair to Trustee Belisa, are you referring to, just a clarification, to youth that have graduated from school or who are not in attendance at school?
Not attending school.
We did have a number of youth who completed the survey that we conducted, who identified that they were not attending school. And there were a number of youth that were accessing a range of programs and services within the community. Because of the way the data is collected, it's anonymized. And so putting together the response that I'm not currently attending school with the information with regards to which programs that individual is attending wasn't something that we looked at in the interest of protecting privacy and confidentiality. But we have engaged with our youth outreach workers here at the city, who do work with a number of youth who are experiencing various levels of vulnerabilities, as well as working closely with Greg Liu and the team from Vancouver Coastal Health at Foundry Richmond, who also provide a number of supports to youth who may or may not be attending school. And so those conversations will continue over the course of the implementation plan development of the strategy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's interesting data that's coming out. I had a question on the distribution. So you mentioned that you were going to distribute the services and supports, to parents and youth. And I'm just wondering where you were going, like what avenues you're going to use for distributing that information. And I'm sure the school district can be part of that as well. So.
Through the chair, thank you. There are a number of actions identified in the strategy specifically related to that information. And the first is perhaps not necessarily contained in the action on awareness, but it is something that the committee had a lot of conversation about, which is using common language and trying to align the terminology that individual organizations are using. And so that is one step in this process, as well as doing some research to create and identify some safe, equitable, and current mechanisms for distributing information. In the past, 6 or 7 years ago, Facebook might have been a mechanism for distributing information. We're now finding we need to get a little bit more creative. Things maybe need to be a little bit more dynamic. And so doing some research into which are the best platforms to communicate both with youth and with their families, because we know that both of those groups require the information and they may require it in a different format and on a different platform.
Yes, yeah. Certainly, social media has made it easier to get information, because, I remember when my boys were younger, it was hard to find things in a central place. So I think it's really important that both groups really know where to look, and to find resources and activities and places to meet and all those things that are so important to our youth. So thank you so much. I look forward to ongoing updates. I see that our Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Ryan, has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. I think that Director of Instruction Joe Hall wanted an opportunity to pick up on what Ms. Duggan was talking about with regards to Trustee Belize's question about do we know the students who aren't in attendance, et cetera, et cetera. So if we can provide him an opportunity to respond, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick, and through the chair. Just want to highlight that we're in the third year of receiving funding from the United Way of British Columbia for community schools programs, and that's something that each year has seen an uptick in terms of participation of schools and students throughout the district. The first year we had this partnership was 21-22, and just coming out of the pandemic. And really the focus is working with schools to identify students who are struggling potentially with attendance, or maybe even just from a mental health, social emotional perspective. So just wanted to highlight that last year we had close to 200 students in our elementary schools, and these are typically grades 4 to 6 students participating in programs, and we had 18 programs that were delivered with 7 community partners in the school district, and that work is continuing this year. But again, it's really the work of our community schools coordinator, connecting with schools, working with school staff to really identify students who may be struggling for a range of different reasons, whether it's financial or mental health or other things that we would deem students to be vulnerable, and really providing them with opportunities to participate in these programs.
That's great. And at one time we had an outreach worker that would, kind of, especially for secondary students, connect with youth and to bring them back into the school system. Do we still have that position filled? Maybe Mr. Joe Hall can answer that.
Thank you, Trustee Chablani. We have youth workers attached to our secondary alternate programs, and then we do have our youth peer support workers who are part of the new integrated child and youth teams. So through those positions, we do have opportunities to connect students with the right supports throughout the community. So those are the ones that I could speak of.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, well, thanks for answering all those questions. The next item on the agenda is the school district staffing update, and I'm not sure who's speaking to that.
Yeah, through the chair. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Yes.
I think what I'll do is just sort of speak globally that, of course, many folks who have been living in the city or working in the city and part of the school district will realize that the start of September is an incredibly busy time. It's an exciting time because schools begin and schools open and new students come in, and there's lots of movement through the district. And so this year in that regard has not been different. The one sort of wonderful thing over the last few years in Richmond is we have started to see increased enrollment through the elementary grades. And this year is no different than that. And we're on mark to show an average increase of upwards to 300 students coming in, as well as our international students, which take us above that. As I think many of us will know, we have space pressures throughout our elementary sites, while we do have space capacity in our secondary sites. In particular, the number 3 corridor is a particularly busy place for enrollment, and we've been working very hard with our Central Reg department to make sure that we're finding spaces for students in as close to their neighborhood school as possible. But as pressures mount and spaces become limited, we are looking outwards to other schools to find places. And so what we do as part of that is we sort of calibrate and add divisions as much as we can within our financial envelope to support the growth. And we have been doing that all through last week and this week. as well as you can appreciate, we are looking forward to our international student population coming. We have some deferred enrollment because there have been some hiccups with transportation plans coming from other countries, but we have been saving spots, and we have an anticipated enrollment coming up also for February as well with international students. So overall, the good news is population is increasing through elementary. We are able to accommodate all of our students, which is fantastic. And overall, the growth picture is positive at elementary.
Any questions, Mr. Stanger? Doesn't look like it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next one on the agenda is the wrong piece of paper. Is our sports council priorities. And I am not sure. Oh, Councillor Liu is speaking to that.
Thank you, Chair. I'm afraid you probably weren't actually issued a copy of this, so I don't know if maybe I can share my screen here and show you. Oops, maybe I can't. Okay. Anyway, I'm having trouble sharing this one. What we've done is council received the sport facility and infrastructure prioritized list from the sport council. On that list, we've got things like outdoor pickleball courts, athletic track and field facility, synthetic turf infield, covered lacrosse box, synthetic turf sport field, and then in improving the Steveston London field softball diamond. It occurs to me that the school board has certain sports facilities. We have a partnership where the city maintains some of them, and to what level it's still sort of, to me, it's nebulous what level we maintain them at. So for example, behind McNair, there's some tennis courts that haven't been resurfaced for a really long time, and they're not heavily used. And so I wanted to share with you the sports facility list. The school board did weigh in on it. They were one of the stakeholders that were part of the process. So you've probably already seen this list. You've probably had something to do with it, or at least your staff did. And so I just wanted to make you aware of what the sports council would like to have. And then school board could consider whether or not any of their sites or locations may make sense to partner further, and to then have the city then do the upgrades, or however we would like to do it, to maybe help move some of these things along so that we have better utilized facilities in our community, especially if we have some sitting idle or some that might be really appropriate for some of these upgrades that the sport council has identified that are important to them. And so I'll send that back out with you guys. You guys can look at it. You guys can weigh in on it. I think Elizabeth probably has some comments around this. So.
Thanks, Alexa. Sure, I can chip in a little bit, and we can certainly share that list back. It is still under review. We did get direction from council to go back out and do a little bit more consultation, which we're working on. And I might suggest that we take that list back through our joint school city land use committee. They tend to meet about school sites, school development, and that might be the most appropriate place, and they could have a more fulsome discussion, and then through that committee report back to this larger group. And that's something that we could do over the coming months, if that would work.
Yeah.
And maybe
I think we
Cindy
would look forward to, receiving an update on that and the list that Councillor Liu is referring to. I think I know that the our agreement between the city and the school district is being looked over again, because I think it's been a while since it was looked at. So I guess, you'll be meeting and we'll be looking forward. So maybe we can put that as some kind of an action item to bring back to the council board committee. Is that okay, Councillor Liu?
Yeah, that's what I was just hoping for, that we could.
Yeah, and anything that you have to share with us currently would be good for us to have. I'm interested in the pickleball because we have a friend in Coquitlam that is currently fighting the Coquitlam city regarding a pickleball court that is way too close to his house. And my son's doing a documentary on it called Pickleball, What a Pickle, or something. So
and certainly some facilities are much more amenable to certain sites. Yes. I do know that where the tennis courts are at McNair, there is the buffer of the fire hall there. So, right. But that's why maybe bringing it up, the school board might have some ideas as to what's appropriate, and then what would be good for your own students and the needs and uses there.
Good. Yeah. Apparently pickleball is very noisy. So anyway, be careful where you put the pickleball courts. Thank you very much. I think we're nearing the end of the agenda. Next meeting date is, November 15th, 9:30 a.m. And we'll still be hosting at that point. I think it switches over in January. So I'm looking for, unless there's anything else, someone to move adjournment and a seconder. Trustee Larson and Trustee Liu. So thank you. And we'll